Hi friends, it's Belinda here from Be Making Joy, and this is episode 24 of What Brings Me Joy, a mostly knitting podcast from my home here in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And if you're new here, welcome, and if you're a returning viewer, I'm glad to have you back. This is where I share my knitting progress with everybody so that you can hold me accountable, and I'll share anything that's bringing me joy and hope it brings you joy too. Today I have one finished object. I'll give you a full view of my progress on the Anthology shawl that I'm doing using the Memories in Yarn mystery box from Pearl Passion. I have a little progress on 2 other whips and on my knitwear designer certification course. And I have some new acquisitions to show you from my trip and the December color of the month from Ancient Arts Yarns. So, my finished object is the hat for my daughter Ilana. This is the Musselburgh pattern by Isolde Teague. It's a double-sided hat. You're getting a tube, one end tucked up inside the other to make it reversible. So I'll put it on for you. And then it's double-sided, and then when you fold up the brim, you've now got 4 layers of fabric on the ears. So there's one version of it. Let's flip it over and show you the other version. So they're kind of slouchy, where my daughter pulled it all the way down and pulled the brim up so she had 2 colors. I guess you probably could even fold the brim back down again. Have it really thick around the ears. Anyway, that's the Musselburgh Hat by Isolde Teague. The pattern is written to accommodate any yarn and your choice of needles. I've used a 3.25 millimeter needle, which I don't know what the US number is for that. The yarn is a fingering weight hand-dyed yarn. This one is by Sea Turtle Fiber Arts here in Calgary in the colorway Rainbow Bright. These ones is a set by Poppy Yarn and Fiber, also here in Calgary, in the color combo Study Buddies, a set of minis, 5 minis. So they all have the same fiber content, merino, nylon, and stellina. And the stellina is what makes the metallic sparkles. Can you see any of the sparkles in this light? Anyway, my daughter's already had a chance to try it on. She loves it. Yeah. Told her she had to give it back to me so I could podcast first before she could take it. Now, while we're on that, let's talk about the second one that I was making. I finished that one on the flight down to Dallas, or between Dallas and Houston, whichever. I did a lot of work on this one on the flight back. So this one is for me, also a Musselburgh, and almost finished. I started the decreasing on the other end of the hat. Maybe it'll get finished tomorrow. I have doctor appointments tomorrow. The 1/2 colorway is the Bee's Knees from Ancient Arts Yarns and the Sock NATO base. And this one is also Sock NATO in the color Contented Grapes. Again on 3.25 millimeter needles. The Sock NATO though is slightly thicker than the other ones. So there's a sneak peek of what it's going to look like. Yeah, now my hair is lovely. Whatever. So that's the progress on those. And oh, it's so soft, so warm. It's going to be great. The other project that came on the trip with me is the Anthology shawl, patterned by Helen Stewart, that I'm doing in the Memories in Yarn mini skeins set from Pearl Passion. Hard to tell with it all on the needles, but I will put it on pony cord and spread it out and take a photograph for you to put in here. So this is the Anthology Shawl pattern by Helen Stewart. The yarn is Memories in Yarn from Pearl Passion. The yarns that I'm doing my daily yarn opening videos on this same channel under the playlist Mystery Yarn Box. When we finish opening these yarns, we're going to do a mystery box from, doesn't matter, that box is not going in this project. The 24 skeins from the Memories in Yarn are going in this project. And I'm currently on day 12. So I've fallen almost a week behind. But that's okay, because on our trip we didn't have very much knitting time. Let me check my notes. Is there something I'm forgetting to tell you about this? I'm using 4mm needles. The yarn is a fingering weight wool nylon blend. I don't remember the exact numbers. The pattern does tell you when to change the colors, but I went ahead and decided to use as much as I could of the first color until I was about to run out. So now every color is maybe off. It doesn't quite line up with where the holes are as the pattern would, but that's okay. I don't know how big it's going to get. I don't remember how big the pattern says it would get. Of course, this is going to get bigger now because I went with more yarn. Okay, I'll put it on some pony cord and spread it out and photograph it for you. Okay, there's the Anthology Shawl or Throw laid out to full width. It's on pony cord, pony bead cord. That's why this edge is all wobbly. So it's stretched out. Done up to color 12 out of 24. And to the best of my measurements, it's 90 centimeters in diameter, which is 35.5-ish inches. And the pattern suggests that the full size might be 150 centimeters, 59 inches when it's finished. Of course, being halfway through the colors doesn't mean you're halfway through the width. But I think it's going to be bigger than that because, as I told you, I went further along and used up all the colors, as much of the color as I could, without running out in the middle of the row. So, yeah, I think it looks beautiful. We have another 7 colors, I think, before it increases in size again, and the number of stitches will increase. Then the color stripes will decrease in width. I'm very pleased with this. Before we went away, I made some more progress on the cloak that I'm doing for Ilana. Before we went away, I was keeping up with that project very well. So I was also able to do some more on this project. So let's see. Cloak for Ilana, I'm using, it was a mystery yarn box in July from Fangirl Fibers in a Pokemon themed yarn. And last episode I had just started splitting for armholes. If I can do this without pulling it off the needles, we'll see. So I've got armholes in. I've got, I think, 10 more colors to go. It's hard to do with it still bunched up on the needle, but you can get the general idea of how it's going. I still have not bought the yarn for the button band and the hood. Tangling myself here. Writing the pattern as I go. I'm not sure if anyone would actually want the pattern, but since I'm creating it, I may as well write it, right? So, wrapped around my chair. There we go. What else is there to tell you about that? It's a nylon wool blend yarn. They were mini skeins. In July, I did daily opening videos of this yarn from Fangirl Fibers. I'm using 2.75 millimeter needles, which is the US 2. And yeah, when we do the button bands, we have the stitch markers that also came with the yarn, one for each color, that we're going to put on the button band as buttons. My daughter's going to actually glue them to buttons. That's going to be quite the project when it's finished. So there's where that stands. I'm moving quite quickly and I'm quite nervous. All my kids are at home. There's activity going on out there. What else did I do before we went away? I focused a little bit more on my knitwear designer certification program from the Knitting Guild of America. I'm working on module 2, and the part of the assignment that I'm working on is to design a fall theme sweater. And I tried a few times to create a lace maple leaf pattern stitch from the bottom up. Couldn't make it work. I gave up and I created a textured maple leaf. Does that show? So it's just knits and purls to create the maple leaf. I'm going to assume you can see it because I can't see it once I hold it up to the camera. Yeah, it's just knits and purls. Now I need to wet block this and decide if the stitch gauge is the gauge I want, if the fabric's what I want. And then compare the stitch gauge to the number of stitches in the maple leaf repeat. Figure out how to grade it to 9 different sizes. In my yarn choices, I'm thinking it's fall, students are going back to uni, they don't have the time or space for hand washing, so I'm using a machine washable and dryable acrylic. This is Lion Brand Pound of Love. And it's also very economical. So that's that. The assignment doesn't require me to actually knit the sweater, just to design it and write a pattern. So that's coming along nicely. That's all I have to show you. I've got more projects on the needles, as you know, but that's all I've been working on. My next step is to do a spreadsheet and do the math on this and get caught up on my anthology shawl. Continue on with my daily openings. So, yeah, so let's move on to acquisitions. I'm moving very fast. We were in Dallas for an investment conference for my husband, and he said that I could take an afternoon off and go to a yarn store. And, you know, I spent just as much on the Uber as I did for the yarn, but I had a fun afternoon. I went to McKinney Knittery and General Store. Another store that I saw featured on the Love and Stitches podcast by Knitty Natty. How funny that the last 2 trips I've taken, just before going, she featured a yarn store that was somewhat in that area. If you remember last time in Palm Springs, we drove an hour away, almost an hour and a half. That was an hour, 45 minutes. Doesn't matter. We drove to a yarn store in Palm Springs area. This is in McKinney. McKinney is a small town just on the edge of Dallas. The street that the store is on was a lovely little street, featured some art galleries and some gift shops, so I spent the afternoon there. I wanted to show you the bag, if you can read that. My problem isn't that I buy too much yarn. My problem is that I shop faster than I knit. Isn't that true? But at least I have projects in mind now when I buy these things. It might be a couple of years before I get to the project, but I have projects in mind. So let me show you what I bought. They're both from hand dyers in the Houston area, which is where we went to after we went to Dallas. So that's very appropriate. I didn't get to a store in Houston, so I was glad to find these at the store in Dallas. So this one is dyed by Night Owl Fibers. And the shop cashier told me that the lady that dyes these, because in Houston it's so humid and hot, she dyes them at night in her garage. So that's why she calls them Night Owl Fibers. I thought that was cute. This is a finger and weight, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and the colorway is called the Fellowship. So my husband's into the Lord of the Rings and the Fellowship. I'm going to use these to make socks or a hat for him. Probably socks. We'll see. But it's for something for my husband. And then the other fiber I bought was another Houston dyer, Suburban Stitcher. And this colorway is Maple. And what I thought I would do with this, and it's also a superwash merino, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon blend, just like the other one. And what I thought I would do with it is make the maple shawl by Knit Me, which is the pattern I was trying to use as my inspiration to do the maple leaf for my assignment, but the shawl is worked from the top down and the maple leaves spread out, so you're knitting it upside down, and I could not for the life of me make it work for a bottom-up sweater. But I want to make that shawl, so that's what we're going to do with this someday. Okay. The other acquisition is from Ancient Arts, Color of the Month. Okay, and as always, I will read the post in Instagram that the designer wrote when she released this yarn. So it's Ancient Arts Yarns out of Calgary, my monthly subscription that I get on their sock NATO blend, which is an 80% superwash, a 20% nylon. And she writes, "It's the beginning of the month, and that means it's time to reveal the December color of the month, Terracotta Warriors. Our final stop in our year-long tour of world-famous archaeological sites is in China, to visit the Terracotta Warriors. The first emperor of China, Qi Shi Huang, built an extensive underground palace near Xi'an to house himself and his court in the afterlife. According to court historians of the time, the project was started in 246 BCE, soon after the emperor ascended the throne, and continued for nearly 40 years, using over 700,000 conscripted laborers. As the emperor was a great warrior in life, he wanted to be protected by his great army in the afterlife, and so there are terracotta figures of more than 8,000 soldiers, 130 chariots with 520 horses, and 150 cavalry horses. And there's a picture that I will post here. The terracotta warriors were discovered by a local farmer and his companions on March 28, 1974, when they were digging a well about 1.5 kilometers from the tomb. The find is the most significant archaeological discovery in modern times and gives us a unique insight into ancient Chinese society, art, and warfare. These figures are life-sized, ranging in height from 175 to 200 centimeters, which is 5.74 to 6.6 feet, and vary in facial details, uniforms, and hairstyles, all according to their rank. They consist of armored infantry, unarmored infantry, cavalry, helmeted chariot drivers, spear-carrying charioteers, kneeling crossbowmen, standing archers, and even horses. Originally, the terracotta figures were painted in vibrant colors made from ground-up precious stones, fired bones, and pigments of minerals such as iron oxide, cinnabar, malachite, and azurite, amongst others, making the army look very realistic. Our colorway is drawn from a reconstruction of these amazing warriors, showing them in their full glory. And I'll put up a picture. We hope you enjoyed this trip through history. So all of 2023's Color of the Months were a trip through history, various archaeological sites around the world. I'm looking forward to now what 2024 theme is going to be. Anyway, there's the Ancient Warriors colorway. Very pretty. Lots of colors in there. I don't have a plan for these yet, but socks or shawl or a hat, something will come along that this will be perfect for. That's all I have to share. The next episode will be January 3rd. In the meanwhile, I will continue with those daily yarn reveals. And when we finish with the Memories in Yarn box, we'll open the Winter Wonderland yarns from Ginger Snap That. There's 12 of those in that set. So I'll start them this end on the 24th, so we'll start them on the 25th. And if you'd like for YouTube to remind you of when a video is posted, please subscribe. And please give me a thumbs up so that more people can get to see these videos. In the meanwhile, until the next episode, thank you for joining me. Happy knitting, happy crocheting, happy embroidery, needle felting, beading, puzzles, jigsaw puzzles, woodworking, whatever it is that you like to do. Go find some joy.